The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
We're going to be talking Bulls now, unfortunately. We'll be talking Bulls for this next part of the show, and they host the Golden State Warriors tonight at 7. No Kevin Durant. I'm not sure it really matters, though.
Probably not.
I don't think so. Yeah,
Even if there's no Steph Curry, I don't think it would matter.
No.
I mean, they're coming off of a 18-point loss to Denver, where they gave up 125 points.
125 points. Yeah, and that Jokic guy on Denver had like a triple-double. He was on fire.
19 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists.
So I don't know what happened there because, I mean, the Nuggets aren't a bad team, but they are like 4 games under 500. The Bulls are at 500, and they were a game above 500 during that game. So the Bulls probably should have won that. It just, it seemed like one of those games
Defense is optional.
From November and December where they lose the fourth quarter, stop playing defense, all that stuff. Which is kind of the mantra of this Bulls team, I guess you could say.
Yeah, they were only outscored by 10 in the fourth quarter.
Right. I don't know. It's just, for the people who are going to this game tonight, first of all, why?
You're going to see Steph Curry play.
Yeah. You're going to see Steph and Clay play. You're not there for the Bulls necessarily. Maybe they'll put together a good showing and it won't be a blowout. This is another home game on TNT, which the Bulls are now have won 17 in a row of those games, home games on TNT. So I think tonight that streak will end, but you never know.
It's kind of funny if you go to nationally televised games. The game against the Clippers on Saturday, March 4th.
Yeah.
Actually, that's in a couple days.
Yep.
There's a huge group of Bulls fans. Yeah. They're going there and they're wearing Fire Garpax shirts.
Oh, I like that.
So that it'll be on national TV.
Yeah, I mean, as it should be. I feel like the national media does not talk about it enough.
Probably because they know they're not getting fired. Because they work for Reinsdorf.
It seems like, especially when you see like, if you see like analysts and stuff, when they talk about the Bulls, when they're talking about negative stuff, they always seem to talk about Fred Hoiberg first, and I think that's wrong. I think first you need to talk about Gar and Pax, and then Hoiberg second.
Which Hoiberg deserves a ton of the blame.
Yeah, he deserves a lot of the blame, especially for their fourth quarter play.
That and his failed development of players.
Right.
I remember, they're saying, Cameron Payne can be a good player if he gets developed. Fred Hoiberg's not developing him. He can't develop anybody.
No. From what I saw from Cameron Payne, he didn't look too good.
He was 2 of 10 shooting against Denver.
Yeah.
He's shooting a modest 30% from the field with the Bulls.
Right. And, Anthony Morrow, I've barely even seen him play.
He played him and the other guy they got in the trade, Jeffrey Laverne, combined to play 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
Against Denver.
That sounds very Hoiberg-y.
Why would you trade for those guys if he's not going to play them?
Well, exactly. That's why there's a disconnect
Anthony
between
Morrow
management
is there
and
to
coaching.
shoot the ball. He's there to shoot the ball from 3. He's done a very successful job of that in his career. I don't know why.
But he's been horrible this year.
Oh, he has. He's only shooting 29% from 3.
He's been horrible this year, so the Bulls say, let's go out and get him. It just doesn't make any sense.
Except the previous 5 years, he's been phenomenal. 2015, he shot 38.7% for 3. 2014, 43.4.
Ooh.
2013,
that's what you like to see.
45.1.
Very good.
2012, 39.5.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened. Is he changing his shooting stroke? I think I might have mentioned that last week. I think he is. I think he was trying to fix a couple things and do a couple things, but it's not working out for him right now. And you give. I understand why they traded McDermott. It looks like a bad move considering everything they went through to get him.
Oh, it's a horrible move if this Cameron Payne doesn't develop.
Yeah, but I understand it because I think other teams are willing to take a risk on McDermott, whereas we've kind of seen what he is, and he's not very clutch in the NBA. He was very clutch in college.
The thing with him is, though, like, he's a better fit for an offense that'll have a point guard that actually drives and then kicks it out.
Yeah, he's like a Korver, although he's not as good as
point
Korver.
Guards don't drive and kick it out.
Right. I mean, who does?
So he's not getting very many open looks, and that's on Fred Hoiberg for not giving him opportunities and calling schemes. And Fred Hoiberg didn't even think of that. He should do that.
Right. And then, of course, all of Fred Hoiberg's problems, are caused by Gar Forman and John Paxson. So it's a huge thing.
Yeah, which,
starts at the top, and it doesn't get any better on the way down.
Gar Forman's not the only one to blame, though. I mean, Hoiberg's just not a good coach.
Right. No, I agree. I think...
and then Gar Forman, who gives a rookie head coach $5 million a year over 5 years?
And have it in the works for, 2 years.
A rookie head coach should not be getting a $25 million contract.
Right. You're supposed to see what he is.
Yeah, you should give him a 3-year deal, maybe making $1 million.
Maybe he wouldn't have accepted. Maybe he chose after the money.
He was making $3.5 million a year with Iowa State.
Yeah, I know he was doing a lot at Iowa State. And by the way, all those guys that are playing really well right now for Iowa State are Fred Hoiberg recruits. So there's no question that he has done well at the college level.
You can't deny that he did really well at college.
Although I think the furthest he got was a Sweet 16. I don't think he made it to the Elite 8.
See, that's another thing that his final year they were the 3 seed and then they lost in the first round.
Yeah, yes.
His team. See, that's the thing. When you're evaluating a coach, how far can you take your team come playoff time? And the thing is, if Fred Hoiberg were to take the Bulls to the playoffs, you just expect them to get swept.
Right, and that's not so much on Hoiberg. It's that they'll be 6th or 7th or 8th seed, and they'll be playing Cleveland or Boston or Toronto, which maybe they can beat Toronto. I have no clue, but
Toronto. Well, I don't know if they would be able to beat Toronto. It would be that Toronto is not able to beat the Bulls.
They definitely can't beat Boston, and they definitely can't beat Cleveland. So, and they probably won't be able to beat teams like Atlanta.
I mean, here's the thing: do you trust Fred Hoiberg though to come with a game, with his team ready to play in the playoffs? He's never coached in the NBA playoffs. Do you really think he's going to come ready?
No,
I don't feel confident in him.
No, I don't feel confident in him. I don't feel confident. The only person I feel confident in come playoff time is Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler. I know they'll be ready to play. They have the experience, especially Wade. They know what to do. But then you have a bunch of these younger guys and a bunch of these guys, one, who aren't very talented, and two, aren't getting enough playing time, are in these screwy rotations and all the other stuff. So, no, I don't trust them to go very far in the playoffs. I think because the Bulls, unless there's some epic collapse, which is always possible too, they're going to be in the playoffs.
The thing is that
they're going to be a bottom seed.
That could realistically happen because they traded 2 of the guys that were performing.
Trading Taj is going to come back to bite them now. Whether it's is it the right move if you're trying to get younger? Yes.
The thing is, it was the right move only if they didn't want to re-sign him.
Right.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to re-sign
But
Taj.
It seems like you're still trying to compete this year while rebuilding, which
actually
that is the worst case scenario. Competing while rebuilding. I mean, that doesn't work.
In Gar Forman's radio interview with David Kaplan, he said he thinks it'll take about 3, 4, 5 years to retool the team. Well, you think it's going to take that long to retool? Why are you not rebuilding? That's about how long it would take to rebuild if you did it the right way and got the right, package in return for Jimmy Butler.
Oh, and but by the way, which I think is pretty funny, I heard it on the radio. The score, Gar Forman won't call into the score. He'll only call into ESPN 1000. Probably that's what I heard today. That he won't call into the score, probably because the score will really be harping him hard. Which I'm sure ESPN does too. I'm sure David Kaplan did too. So
yeah, he did it in a way where he was still friendly, so that Gar didn't get mad and hang up.
Right? Yeah. Let me tell you that would not be the case with Bernstein and Goff. That's for sure. That would not be the case.
So why haven't you been fired yet?
Right. So So how come you haven't been fired yet? What's the deal? What's going on?
Yeah. Funny thing is, David Kaplan, before he let Gar go, he asked him, why don't you do interviews anymore? And you know what Gar said?
What?
I'm willing to do an interview whenever you want me to. You have my number.
Yeah, no.
And Kaplan was like, okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, and he will, too. He doesn't
remember all
forget.
the times, the past couple of years he refused to address the media?
Right.
And then or refused to take questions, like when the whole Rajon Rondo Instagram post and Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade calling guys out to the media. And then Fred Hoiberg made like a 1-minute statement and then refused to take questions.
Yeah, I mean that's what he does. He uses like his words, to say like, "Oh, this is what I said," blah blah blah, and he's just a liar, is what he is.
Like Donald Trump.
Yeah, seriously, it reminds me of it.
Whatever he says, he's going to contradict himself.
Right.
And
you can always find something to contradict what Gar Forman says.
Remember last year, he said that Pau Gasol and Joakim Noah were key core pieces of the future.
Right.
He said at the trade deadline last year. So,
I don't know. We're going to take a quick update, and then we'll come back and wrap up this discussion. Cool. All right, so welcome back. And, just to wrap up the Bulls discussion, it just seems that whatever Gar Forman says, it ends up being contradicted in one way or the other, and we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. We're expecting, the Bulls are 30-30 right now. There's only, 22 games left, so
there's time to fall out of the playoffs.
There is certainly time for that. There is time for them to maybe put a little run together. They did have a 4-game winning streak before that loss, surprisingly enough. But it doesn't get any easier. They play Golden State, and then they play the Clippers, and it doesn't get much easier. Their next home game is after the Clippers is against Houston, so that's 3 home games in a row that they'll probably lose. Isn't that nice? So fans go out and support them.
I'm sure Fred Hoiberg thinks they'll be winning those games, and it'll be interesting to see how many empty seats there are for that Houston game, because I'm sure tonight there'll be a lot of people in the stands just to see Steph Curry.
Yeah.
There'll be, the Clippers game is on a Saturday. It's a Saturday night. There'll probably be a good amount of people there for a Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's just, it's just when you look at what the Bulls are doing, we still don't have a clear direction necessarily, and you kind of have to pick a lane. I know, I think it was Judd Hoyer was kind of asked. He wasn't asked about what the Bulls are doing because obviously that's not his field, and he probably doesn't care. But he was talking about how teams need to pick a lane. If you want to be all in every year and go for it every year, then that's fine because you chose to go all in on that. Or you choose to rebuild and you choose to go all in on that, like what the Cubs did in 2011 and 2012. So, you kind of have to pick a lane. You can't be wishy-washy and, we're kind of rebuilding and we're kind of competing at the same time because we're greedy and we want the money and, you got to pick a lane.
You can't be like Bulls management where you're trying to rebuild and, competing, thinking you're a championship contender at the same time. It just doesn't work.
And you can't rebuild the way you did after the Jordan era, where you were bad for 8 years before you got back to the playoffs.
That was just kind of the problem. They were evaluating talent wrong,
Yeah.
Trading
which was
Gar.
Which Gar Forman was doing.
Gar Forman was
then.
the scout.
He was the scout, and from 98 to 04, he was the leading scout. So look at all the talent they got then. Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler and
Tyrese Thomas,
Ron Artest, and all these other people that they ended up getting. Tyrese Thomas, yeah. It just awful. They kind of hit with Ben Gordon and Kirk Heinrich. That's about it.
Except that, they after they left the Bulls, they did nothing.
True.
They did nothing
True.
after they left
Especially
the Bulls.
Ben Gordon. He really, he was just kind of good with the Bulls, and that's it.
He forgot how to shoot.
Right. I think he went to Detroit and stuff. And
Detroit, he played some years with the Magic.
Yeah, he just wasn't very good, as it seems. And Kirk Heinrich, it's kind of an okay role player, I guess. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, and we'll talk about the Bears and what they are going to do. Alshon Jeffrey is going to test free agency. Are the Bears, is it a possibility that they re-sign Cutler? Who knows what they're going to do in the draft? We'll talk about all that next, coming up on Sports Renegades, SportsTownChicago.com. The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.